Hi, and thanks so much for joining me for this Get Ready With Me featuring new Chanel. If you'd like to see that, please keep watching. You may have tuned into the unboxing of the order that I made of the 2 new Chanel palettes as well as some of the new eyeliners. Today we are featuring this palette. It is 382, and I'll take you through a few different looks using 2 colors and then 3 and then 4 colors. So if you'd like to see different intensities, I'll be doing that. And I'll also be featuring this new eyeliner number 56. And along the way, I noticed these reminded me of other items, so I'll be doing some comparison swatches as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I did go ahead and combine both of these, the Water Fresh Tint and the L'Essence de Tint foundation today, because I wanted a lighter coverage. And if this is too dewy for you, that's something you can do is add it into foundation to kind of lighten up in terms of the weight, because I'll actually be going somewhere later and I wanted a really natural look. So even though the L'Essence de Tint foundation is very nice and skin-like, I wanted an even lighter weight foundation, so that's why I combined the 2. I also did have the question, why would I want to add this on top of foundation and powder? Because it doesn't seem like that makes sense. So I'm going to show you at the end, if you'd like to stay tuned, why I do that and how I do that. Thank you so much if you tuned into the unboxing, but if you did watch it, you'll know that I got a little beauty recommendation, like a map of how to use the products. And I thought I'd try to follow a little, just have blending A and B together, but I want to just go in with this shade first. That is the light shade. So we'll go in with this first. I just want to see. It looked quite lightweight when I swatched it, which is actually something I like, but it was different in terms of the density of pigment compared to the other palette that's new, the more purpley one. So since I'm going somewhere pretty casual, I felt like this would be a good palette to use. So I'm getting ready anyway. I thought I would use this today. I'll use the other one tomorrow. Kind of reminds me of the those Charlotte Tilbury ones that I liked. The Hollywood one, I can't remember. Yeah, it reminds me of that level of density. So this is quite sheer. So again, on the swatch it looks sheer, and on the eye it also looks sheer. We're gonna go in with this. We're gonna make a bit of a crease there with that. That's really pretty. Yeah, it does remind me a little bit of that Charlotte Tilbury palette. Now that one's really pretty. I like that because it's sheer, it's got a more satiny finish. I really do love that for the crease. That's really pretty. Reminds me a little bit of this shade in the Clay de Peau, although this one has more shimmer in it. You can see them side by side. They look very similar, don't they? So I'll swatch those for you just so you can see the comparison, but they do look very similar. I knew it reminded me of something I'd seen before, but this one has more of a satin finish and it doesn't have that intermittent shimmer or the individual particles of shimmer. And this looks buildable too, because I'm just going in with this color a little bit more intensely and it builds up nicely. This also reminds me a little bit of that Chantecaille shade that I love so much, Java. So let me see if I can remember to swatch that as well. So let's go ahead underneath. I'm gonna go with this shade right here as well. Let's go in with Khaki Metal for the eyeliner, and we'll use just these colors first, and then I'll add eyeliner and mascara, and then we'll build from there in case those of you who like more minimal makeup just want to see something like this. This would probably be more of a daily eye look for me. Now, even though the other green shade I thought would be more like Celadon, this actually reminds me a little bit more of Celadon, but there's more brown in here. I just went ahead and added some Chantecaille mascara, and I tightlined with Chantecaille Earth, which is a brown matte color, a dark brown. While we let the mascara dry, I thought we'd go in with the blush. Let's go in with a Brun Rouge, which I haven't used for a while, but I thought it would complement this nicely. I might add a little bit more pink here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and go in with this first because it's like a beautiful apricot brown, like a burnt apricot color. I do have so many of the former formulation of the blushes, but I hesitate using them because they're not readily available anymore. So let me know what you think about that, but this is a pretty one. So I do want to try to use more of the newer formula blushes. I know what happened. I used a tissue instead of a towel to clean off the brush, and so there's a little bit of lint here. That is a really beautiful sun-kissed kind of blush. I forgot how pretty that one was. Okay, I'm glad I pulled for that. Let's go ahead with a little bit more of this eye palette now. So now you've seen a pretty minimal look, just 2 shades, just these 2. And then let's go in with this shade right here. The more of a, it's like a maroon plummy shade. I'm just gonna apply it right to the corner here. I'm gonna work that also into this corner here to blend with the crease. And then I'm going to take it under as well, just right here. So there's another layer of intensity. I really like that because it builds more dimension for something a little bit more dressed up, I want to say. But I really liked that first look with just the 2 shades as well. You can see I'm not adding a whole lot of makeup. I'm just being really specific about placement and intentional. Just a little bit of this goes a long way. So just a little bit is needed here. And I'm going really light-handedly. Okay, and then I think the last thing I'm going to do is just intensify with this gold color. So I don't want to add too much, just a little bit. I'm going to use my clean hands here. Oh yeah, that's really pretty. Okay, and then let me find a lip. So I've got a lot of Chanel lip products right here. Ooh, Tendresse. We might have to do this one. I really like this one. Plus it has a little bit of, just a little bit of warmth in it. Okay, that's pretty, but that's too pink for what I was looking for. I want something warmer. Merveille. Oh gosh, I say that one wrong every time. Okay, these are looking so much brighter than I intend. Hold on, let me find something. I love this one. Exigence, let's try it. And then I wonder if we could put just a little bit of Chance on here. And then thinking of a fragrance to pair this with, this makes me think of summer, especially that beautiful gold color in there. So I chose this one, and it's a light floral. It's the Chanel Beige. I do love these teeny tiny little samples. And I love this because it's floral yet light. So I actually don't usually gravitate towards really heavy florals, and this is not a heavy floral. It's a very beautiful light floral. So this is probably as much floral as I would go for in terms of mostly floral notes. Usually it's mixed in with something like a woodsy scent or something green, but this is really a beautiful floral. So if you are like me and you don't usually gravitate towards florals and want something more light, then beige is such a pretty fragrance. Reflecting on this palette, I think it's really pretty, but it did remind me of other things that I have, but not all in the same place. So even though these are warm, they're not super warm, if that makes sense. So they're still more on the neutral side. I think this gold color really makes it feel more warm than it is. So if you look at these colors right here, they are more neutral, but still really pretty. And I loved especially this shade. I think that's one of my favorite shades. I don't even know how to describe this shade. It's kind of like a, I mean, it's brown, but it also has some red in it. And it has a little bit of bronze in it, but I think it's such a pretty color that will look great on so many people. So in reality, I probably would use these two the most, although this is quite sheer, but I like that, especially for the daytime. And then if I want to intensify, I would add these two. They did perform beautifully. It was my first impression though. I will let you know how I get along with it. And then this is not new, but I thought that this blush paired really well with it. So let's look at them together. I think that that's a great pairing because I was really wondering what kind of blush I was going to pair with this. Plus it's more like a sun-kissed look with this blush, which I think goes well with this palette. And as you can see, I struggle a little bit with the lip, trying to find a lip that worked, but I think Exigence worked really well with this. But I think the other ones were a little too pink. Oh yes, and then I promised I was going to tell you more about this if you want to stay tuned for this. So the Le Beige, the question was, why would I want to put this on top of my makeup? And I do use this especially when it gets hotter. So when my makeup starts to kind of separate in extreme heat, I don't want to go in and redo my entire face because usually it's right here. So this may happen more frequently to me because I'm more oily, and that will take apart makeup, especially when it's really, really, really hot. So I will go in with this, and I've already powdered, so I'm going to go in on top. So I do use it as a repair. I wouldn't normally just apply it just to apply it on top of makeup. It's usually to help bring the makeup back together. Or in the case where I'm using other concealers that I'm not used to using, sometimes it can get a little bit puckered here and there's a lot of texture on my pores. And instead of washing my whole face to start over, I will just go ahead and spot fix that. So that's another reason I would go. And so there are two reasons. One, it's falling apart because the oil has broken through and is separating my makeup. So I don't want to redo my whole makeup, but I will just spot fix it. The second reason is that either it's gotten too cakey, the powders didn't work well with the concealer, and I do conceal on top of powder, although it doesn't always work depending on the combination. So again, if it's a newer concealer to me that I'm not used to using, sometimes I go overboard. But again, I don't want to redo my whole face just because of this one section. So if I do repair, it's usually here. Another place that you can repair is under the eye. So if you do have a concealer that creases a bit and you don't want to redo your makeup, you can also do the same thing here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit, I have a little of the Water Fresh tint, and I'm going to apply it right. I kind of don't want to mess my makeup up because it looks nice. Okay, so I'm going to apply it here and I'm just going to work it in like this. Now, I normally would not put it on makeup that looks good already because that would be really confusing why I would do that. I get that. But it is if it's messed up. So you can see what's happening here. It's starting to pull the makeup away from the skin, but that's okay. So you can see my skin underneath, you can see the discoloration, and this can actually happen. I mean, not this badly, but where the makeup settles in between my pores and then the part that's closer to the surface is the darker area, so it actually looks worse than it normally would look because there's more of a contrast between that light and dark. So I just keep working it in like this, and I keep working it in. So it gets to the point where I can see my skin underneath. So it pretty much looks like I have no makeup on in that area. Can you see? Okay, so then I just keep working it in, and it looks like I've made a complete disaster, but I keep going. And I know some of you have tried this and let me know that you went through the same thing, like, oh my gosh, it's not gonna work. But then it comes together. So then it starts to get a little bit like dry, and then you can feel that it's time to start putting the makeup back in place. So it's taking a little bit longer today. So let's do this a little bit faster. I think I put on a lot too. Usually it's not a whole pump. I wasn't paying attention. I think I put a whole pump, which is making this take a little bit longer. So don't take a whole pump. Take like half a pump, third of a pump, fourth of a pump, just a little bit, but not a whole pump. Unless you're doing your whole face, then have I done that? I may have done that before, my whole face, and it takes about a pump. I think I was just experimenting. So just keep going. So once it's not so shiny, that's when it's gonna start to put back together. Put back together? It's gonna start to come back together. We'll get there. So do you see it's starting to get a little bit more dry again? So that is why I would apply it on top of makeup. It would be like hours after initial application, or if I'm fixing a texture issue. And also right here, if you have these lines, if you have makeup collecting there, that's a good place to do it. Then it's packed together again. I'll powder, see if it's dry enough, powder. And then I'm gonna add the blush again. That's how you can fix your base makeup without redoing your whole face again. So if the finish for you is too dewy on this, I would use it for under makeup so you get a glow from underneath, or you could also mix some foundation in with it to take a little bit of that glow down while still having a nice thin layer of makeup on. And if you're interested in this palette, I will be filming that next and posting that in the near future. But that is it for today's video, so please take care of each other, stay well. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and I will see you next time.